Everyone at the office knows your birthday is tomorrow. Someone hangs a banner, someone buys a cake, and when you walk in, 20 people turn around and stare at you like you're supposed to perform happiness on command. And you smile. You say thank you. But somewhere deep inside, something feels off. Not sad, not angry, just disconnected. Like you're watching yourself from across the room, wondering why this day is supposed to feel different from yesterday. And it doesn't. It just doesn't. So you go home, you eat whatever you feel like, you watch something, you sleep. And honestly, it was a perfectly fine day. But now the texts are piling up. Are you okay? Did something happen? You seemed weird today. You seemed weird for feeling normal on a day the calendar decided was special. Here's the thing nobody tells you. Researchers have been quietly studying people exactly like you. And what they found doesn't suggest something is broken. It suggests something might actually be working better than average. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you might understand yourself in a way you never have before. Let's talk about what happens in the brain the moment someone decides birthdays just aren't that important to them anymore. There's a concept in neuroscience called predictive coding. Your brain is not a camera recording the world as it is. It's a prediction machine, constantly running simulations about what's coming next, and then updating based on whether it was right or wrong. Neuroscientist Carl Friston built an entire framework around this. Your brain craves one thing above all else: accurate predictions. Now, think about what a birthday actually is. It's a day loaded with expectation. Feel special, be celebrated, let people show you that you matter. Your brain, especially when you were younger, ran that prediction hard. And if reality kept falling short, not dramatically, not with one catastrophic event, but quietly, consistently, year after year, your brain did the rational thing. It quietly stopped predicting the reward. It recalibrated. It said, this isn't a reliable source of meaning, and it moved on. That recalibration isn't apathy, it's intelligence. But here's where it gets layered, because not everyone who skips the celebration arrived there the same way. There are actually several distinct psychological profiles hiding inside this one behavior, and you might recognize yourself in more than one. The first type is the person who intellectually outgrew the ritual. Psychologist Leon Festinger introduced something called social comparison theory in 1954. We build our sense of self by measuring against others, but some people, at a certain point, stop outsourcing that measurement. They develop what researchers call an internal locus of control, a deep conviction that their value doesn't come from external events or other people's reactions. For them, a birthday feels redundant, not painful, just unnecessary, like being told to celebrate the fact that the Earth completed another orbit. Interesting, technically, personally irrelevant. The second type is more complicated. These are people carrying something they've never fully named. Psychologist Tara Marshall at the University of Winnipeg studied how people respond to unmet emotional needs in childhood, and one pattern she identified was emotional distancing as a coping strategy. When a child repeatedly experiences a gap between what they hoped for and what they received, they don't always cry. Sometimes they go quiet. They start shrinking their own desires before anyone else can disappoint them. They get ahead of the hurt. And by adulthood, that shrinkage feels so natural they don't even notice it anymore. They just say, it's not a big deal, and they believe it, mostly. The third type is someone you might not expect, the overachiever, the person who fills every day with so much meaning, so much purpose, so much forward momentum that one day designated feels almost insulting by comparison. Why would one day matter when every day matters? Clinical psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi studied people in states of deep engagement, what he called flow, and found that people who regularly access that state often report a different relationship with time entirely. Days don't feel like countdowns, they feel like continuations. A birthday is just another day in a life they're already fully living. Picture this. You're 11 years old. You've been rehearsing your birthday in your head for 2 weeks, not in an obsessive way, just the way kids do. You imagine who will remember without being reminded. You imagine feeling, just for one day, like the most important person in the room. And the day comes, and some people remember, and some don't. And the ones who do make a small effort. And it's fine. It's genuinely fine. But it's not the version you imagined. So you do something very quiet and very human. You tell yourself it doesn't matter. And the brilliant part is your brain believes you. Cognitive reframing, psychologists call it. The ability to reinterpret an experience to reduce emotional discomfort. You were protecting yourself. You were adapting. But here's what no one tells you about reframing when you do it young enough and long enough. Eventually, you can't tell the difference between what you genuinely don't want and what you trained yourself not to want. That's not weakness. That's just what surviving quietly looks like. Now, here's the part that challenges everyone who judges you for this. Psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan spent over 30 years building self-determination theory, and one of its core pillars is the concept of introjected motivation, doing things not because you want to, but because you feel you should, because you fear guilt or shame or judgment if you don't. Most birthday celebrations, if we're honest, run on that fuel. People don't throw parties purely from joy. They throw them because the alternative feels like a statement, like opting out means opting out of life itself. But the people who genuinely don't need the ritual, they've done something quietly radical. They've separated their sense of worth from social performance. Researcher Kristen Neff at the University of Texas, whose entire life's work focuses on self-compassion, found that the people most capable of genuine self-care are not the ones who perform it for others. They're the ones who practice it invisibly, privately, on ordinary days. They don't need an annual deadline to check in with themselves. They already know how they're doing. But now, stop and be honest with yourself for just a moment. Is this you because you're free, or is this you because you're protected? There's a difference, and it's worth sitting with. Freedom looks like, I don't need this, and I genuinely don't miss it. Protection looks like, I don't want to need this, because needing it and not getting it would be too much. Both are valid, both are human, but only one of them is the full version of you. Psychologist Brené Brown spent years researching vulnerability and found something uncomfortable. The walls we build to keep disappointment out also keep connection out. If you've decided not to want something, ask yourself when you made that decision and whether that version of you, the one who made it, was protecting the real you or slowly replacing them. Here's what I want you to take with you. There's a version of not caring about your birthday that is one of the most psychologically evolved things a person can do. It means you've found your worth somewhere steady, somewhere that doesn't depend on who texts first or who forgets or how big the cake is. That version deserves more credit than it gets. And there's another version that looks identical from the outside, but feels different on the inside. A little hollow, a little rehearsed. That version deserves something too. Not judgment, not a forced party, just honesty. Just the space to admit, quietly, that maybe some small part of you still wishes someone would make a fuss. Not because you need them to, just because being wanted, even on one arbitrary day, still means something. You're allowed to be both. You're allowed to have moved past it and still carry a trace of the kid who hoped. That's not contradiction, that's being human. If you've ever spent a birthday completely alone and felt something you still haven't fully named, leave a quiet comment. You don't have to explain it, just let it land. And if this video reached something in you, the next one might go even deeper. Nothing about you was ever the problem.